What's up, guys? Jared Smith here. It is tea time from Vegas here on Wager Talk TV. Of course, that means I've got a panel of experts getting ready to break down the Workday Charity Open and how you can make a little bit of green on the greens. It's my guys, Nick Borrman, Andy Lang, Dave Cokin, a panel of experts. Gentlemen, happy belated 4th of July. Andy, I'll start with you. I know you've got a very quaint cabin on the lake, so I'm assuming it was a very pleasant 4th of July. We had some fun over the weekend, some fireworks at the Rocket Mortgage Classic as well.
Yep, we had the Brickyard and several other races here in my hometown. Lots of fireworks there. My cabin is not quaint. The lake was not quaint on the 4th of July. A lot of fun, though. A lot of fun, and looking forward to this tournament. Love Muirfield.
Good stuff. Nick Borrman, I saw your notes for this show last night. I'm expecting you to bring it as always, sir. How was the 4th of July weekend?
It was good, man. It was quiet. Nobody's doing any fireworks town-wise anyway around our area. So it was just a day at home with the family, taking the 8-month-old and swimming in the pool. And just relaxing, really. So we had a good time.
Nice. And always setting off fireworks. Our guy, Dave Cokin. Dave, how's everything going out there in the desert?
Oh, fine. And July 4th for me was Saturday.
And Saturdays are great days because we had plenty of golf on. I think we're gonna have another very intriguing weekend as we now move to Muirfield. However you want to say it, pronounce it. We're gonna have 2 straight weeks to talk about it though, because a very unique situation with the golf world being there in back-to-back weeks. Of course, no John Deere Classic this year, and this Workday Charity Open is kind of taking the place of it. We're hearing no fans at Memorial. We weren't expecting fans this week anyways. But, guys, I think that's a good place to start, is just the uniqueness of what we're going to see back-to-back weeks at the same course, the same venue. We have no empirical data for this particular event to go on, but we're just assuming all of the Memorial data stands pat. Andy, how are you looking broad picture, big picture on this very unique situation in the golf schedule?
Well, course history a little bit, but I'm breaking down the season into 2 seasons. There's pre-break and there's after break. There are guys that really benefited from the break and guys that have struggled coming back from the break. So I'm going to put more emphasis on what I've seen after the break as opposed to what I've seen before the break. In course history, you can tell a lot, but there's not a lot of consistency. You see a lot of guys that finish 8th one year, then miss the cut the next year, or, they got a couple top 10s, but also some out of the top 50. Not a lot of consistency. There's some guys I like, but I'm really getting dialed in with what I've seen after this break. So I'm going to be looking at current form.
Nick, I feel like we're going to have some guys that maybe, struggle one week, but are really good the next. Do you think it's going to be consistent performances from these guys playing the same course back-to-back weeks? It's going to set up differently. I'm assuming next week will be much tougher as well.
Yeah, that's the rumor anyway, that they're going to get it, not cut anything basically this week into next week, and then get everything a little faster on the green. So next week is supposed to be tougher. Of course, weather can always dictate that. You never really know what could happen. But, you already said it's a unique situation. I really don't know yet for next week how I'm going to approach it. I mean, back-to-back tournaments at the same venue is not something we are used to, and these guys aren't used to. So I'm trying to take a lot in from this week and then go into next week and go, well, what does that tell me? Again, we talk about course experience and horse for the course plays year in and year out, but I wonder how that's going to play in the neighborhood of just back-to-back weeks. If somebody plays great this week at this course, will that carry over next week, or is it no different than waiting a year to play the same course again? So I'm a little confused, to be honest, more so for next week. This week, I'm just going off of like you said earlier, past history at the Memorial Tournament, just as a starter. So I guess ask me the question again next week. I'm not really sure how yet I'm going to approach that one.
Dave, what's your strategy, big picture, for this very unique situation on the golf schedule?
Well, I just handicapped this as a normal tournament and looked at course form over the years for the players and current form, obviously. I do think, and this is just an opinion that I could be wrong on, but I do think there's going to be an advantage next week for the guys who play this weekend. Fair. Even though the course will be a little bit different, it's still, you're going to have at least 2, maybe 4 rounds under your belt on the same layout. Plus, you'll already be accustomed. You'll kind of be settled in to whatever your surroundings are in terms of whether you're renting somebody's house or staying in a hotel, however that's working. So I think the lack of travel factor might be a plus for guys who play back-to-back.
Interesting.
Yep.
Let's start at the top of the odds board. I feel like we do have some pretty presumptive favorites here. Thomas, Rahm, Cantlay, Koepka. Those are all laying, mid-teens. I guess this is for the field. When you kind of look at the top of the board, guys, are there any guys you're throwing out, or are all these guys in play this week?
No, I think they're all in play. I expect Justin Thomas to come out pissed because he missed. He didn't play this past weekend. He was not a happy camper the prior week when he missed the cut. I mean, there were a couple of club slams, and Justin Thomas, he just had a bad week. He started off really good out of the break, a 10th and an 8th. Even though he missed the cut on this course last year, he had an 8th and a 4th the 2 years prior to that. And I think he's going to come out and play well. Cantlay obviously loves this layout. Won here last year. And finished 4th the year before that, and he's in good form. He's coming off a good performance. Koepka was rolling on Sunday, and I really thought he had a great chance to win before he had to pull out because of the positive test of his brother. So if he picks up where he left off, he's a major threat to win this week. And a guy who might be ready to finally hit the top of the leaderboard is Hideki Matsuyama, who I think he's finally getting it together. And he does have very good form on this course.
Nick, I know you really like Matsuyama this week. I had a great matchup with him on Sunday because he was, tee to green, unbelievable strokes gained, but continues to struggle with the flat stick. Green's going to play a little bit slower probably this week. The rough's not as thick. I mean, he's a guy I think that can really churn up this course.
Yeah, of those top guys that Dave just mentioned, I mean, he's more of the long shot of the favorites at 17-1 or around there. He's one of the best ball strikers on tour, and putting is obviously what you need any given week to win, right? Without it, you're not going to win. Yeah. But over the course of any given tournament or long period of time, it's ball striking that's going to put you in position week in and week out. So looking at those type of numbers and seeing, all right, who's actually playing well, right? Yeah, you can have a week where your putter's hot. You can have a week, or in Hideki's case, several tournaments, several weeks where it's not. But if you're hitting the ball well, you're going to have yourself a decent chance. If you're giving yourself putts, eventually they're going to go in, even if you suck at putting.
Even I can make a putt every now and again sometimes, right?
Exactly. And he played well. We talked about him going in last week, and he finally played well at that tournament because he hadn't really been doing much leading up to it. And he put himself in position with the 65 on Saturday, then kind of struggled on Sunday, which sucked. Finished tied for 21st, so hurts the top 20 bettors out there missing it by a shot.
Yeah.
But listen, guy that we talk about having a air quote here, a down year, right? He's got 9 top 25 finishes in 13 events this year, so he's still playing well. It just goes to tell you that he's got a good name for himself. That a down year is when he's has 9 top 25. So I think this is a good week for him. We know he's got good history here. He's won here, a couple other top 10s. So I think he's a good chance to come through this week.
Andy, what's your take on the top of this leaderboard, the odds board this week?
I'm looking forward to Jordan Spieth having a good round one and having all the Spieth truthers come out of the woodwork and then watch him fall back to 50th. Meanwhile, I just keep cashing head-to-head matchups against him. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Looking forward to the Fowler truthers who think he's going to win sometime soon, only to have him let them down once again. No, there is one guy I wouldn't mind talking about real quick. I can't believe he's playing again this week. Sung J M is kind of up near the top. He's playing too many tournaments.
Yeah.
And I said this a couple weeks ago. This is 23 out of 24 tournaments he's played in a row. The only one he didn't play in was a Pro-Am. And you look at what he's done the last 3 weeks, I think it's starting to wear on him. He's got a missed cut of 58th and a 53rd. I can't believe he's teeing it up again this week. He was 57th here last week. So if you're looking to bet outrights, I'm staying away from him, and I'm looking to bet against him in the head-to-heads. Like, take a week off, man. It's okay. Golf will still be here when you get back.
And he's a guy, Dave, I think we talked about this when we're trying to handicap the mentality of these guys. He travels with his family. He probably had his routine thrown off immensely. That's got to factor into where his mindset is heading in week to week, right?
Yeah, I guess. Although, that really is just a guess. I'm just looking at his form, and it's just not there. He did have a good tournament in the first week back. Then he missed a cut, and 2 outside the top 50s. And his one effort on this course was, okay at best. I think he finished 57th. He's a top 15 guy, a top 20 guy maybe in terms of his talent, but I would not be backing him right now.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm looking at the odds board. I'm starting to make my way down the list. Some names that pop out to me, and Andy, we talked about him before the show, Hovland and Rose. Both of them you can find plus money probably to make the top 20. I feel like those guys have been, especially Rose because he has incredible form at Muirfield, but Hovland's been so consistent. I cashed him in my 5%er last week in the top 20. Kind of snuck that one out there at the end a little bit, but he's tee to green. If he ever gets the flat stick going, I mean, goodness gracious, Hovland, I feel like if you give me a bet, next 10 tournaments, Hovland gets a win, I would take that at any price right now. I feel like he's about to pop off. For the field.
Yeah, I agree with
anyone.
I agree with that. He's been playing great since the restart. He's one of those guys that when he came on tour last year, he started off. There was several of them. It was him. It was Wolf. It was Morikawa.
Yeah.
They all started off really, really hot, and he was playing great week in and week out. He was a name right away that you were like, you know what, we're gonna have to watch this guy week in and week out. And then I think, I don't want to call it a sophomore slump because he didn't quite get into his technically sophomore year, but this spring, or I guess we'll call it over the winter into the early spring, he kind of started to taper off a little bit. Maybe it was going back to what you guys mentioned about Sung Jae, playing a little bit too much, not used to the week-to-week grind here on the tour. Not that he wasn't doing that on the tour below, but he struggled a little bit. Since the restart, I'll look to Andy's quote here of 2 different seasons, right? Since the restart, he's picked it right back up, and he's been fantastic. 4 straight weeks. Right there at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, I don't have it in front of me. He's top 25 in 3 of the 4, right? Maybe
all 4.
All of them, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, all 4.
He's been
But here's the question. We just talked about him having played in all 4 tournaments. So he's playing for a 5th straight week. So is Hovland. There aren't many guys in this tournament who have played.
And he's driving everywhere, too. You see that story?
There's 31 this week, Dave, to answer that number. 31 guys.
Well, he's been the best of them
Yep.
because he's had representative finishes in all 4, but it's still 5 weeks in a row, and you wonder if there could be a little bit of a flattening out. I assume he's playing next week as well. We'll have to wait and see. Patrick Reed is another guy who's playing for the 5th straight week, but he hasn't played quite as much golf because he's missed a couple of cuts. Well, he had 2 decent tournaments. He had a 7th and a 24th and 2 missed cuts.
Struggled over the weekend, on Thursday and Friday.
He does have a good history on this course, though, in terms of competitive finishes. So, if you're going with the on-again, off-again theory, this is an on-again week for Reed. I didn't use him, but, he looms, let's put it that way.
Justin Rose, guys, Andy, I feel like that's a guy, at the top of the leaderboard at this course. You see that name pop up a lot.
Yeah, last 3 times he's played here, 2nd, 6th, 13th. He's just kind of in this weird mode this year of inconsistent, which is rare for him. He's notorious for working really hard on his swing. He talked about going down to the Bahamas to work on it during the break, and he started off real strong, and then he goes out and misses the cut. And right before the break, he missed 2 cuts in a row. Is a guy that's obviously he's got upside, former number 1 player in the world, but he's just inconsistent. And I tend to stay away from the guys who are inconsistent. So he'll be on my radar, but I'm not going to be betting him at anything near 20-1 to win.
Nick, I know you like him in the top 20, right? That's one of the picks you're thinking about.
Yeah, I do. He's, as you mentioned, he's a former world number 1. He struggled this spring leading up to the pause. Came back right after the break with a tie for 3rd, tie for 14th. Yes, missed the cut at Travelers, but he's outside of the top 100 in the money. I think this is just kind of one of those situations where I wouldn't have probably taken him before the break, but after at least 2 of the 3 tournaments coming back, he's looked very, very, very good. And you don't see him getting this kind of number, which 26-1 doesn't sound like a big value in golf, but for him, it really is. It's not a number you'd ever see next to his name over the last year, 2 years, 3 years. So I think he's kind of fallen down a little bit as far as the radar goes. So from a value perspective, I think he's very good this week. And, of course, he's got the history here.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Morikawa?
I was just going to mention him. Wow, you read my mind, Dave. Goodness gracious.
He had that heartbreaker in the first week back. He didn't play as well the next week. Then he missed the cut. I think taking last week off was a really good idea.
Agreed.
I know he doesn't have any course experience here, but this is, to me, he's going to be on the leaderboard this week. I think Morikawa is going to be live going into Sunday. If he's not, it might well be that he's in a sophomore slump and it might be time to start looking to play against him in matchups. I think this is a big tournament for Morikawa. I think he'll play well.
I like him a lot this week. Again, that was the second longest cut streak to start a career in the history of golf, and it ended, and then he took the week off. And I agree. I think the reset. You're right. I think we'll get the proper gauge we want from Morikawa this week. So maybe go light on him this week, but if he plays really well, he could be a strong, positive regression play over the next few tournaments.
I'm actually betting against Morikawa. I'm not too impressed. That heartbreak loss took the wind out of his sails. He's a younger guy. There were some good head-to-head matchups I really liked. He follows that second up with 64th and missed cut. And also, in his last 13 tournaments, he only has 3 top 20s. He's just kind of hovering there in that 20. And his fourth round, I've seen him blow so many tournaments in the fourth round. I wasn't surprised that he lost in the playoff because I've had lots of bets on him where he's 10th, and at the end of the round 4, he's 30th. Blows
maybe
up
a round
on
1 leader bet for Morikawa is probably a better bet.
Yeah.
Nick, I'll let you tie the.
That's the Keegan Bradley Award. Round 1.
Nick, I'll let you tie the bow on Colin.
Yeah, he's consistent this year. 13 to 14 cuts made, 8 top 25 finishes, and 4 top 10s. Like you said, finished second at Colonial. He actually played pretty well at Harbortown, except Sunday.
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah.
He played great the first 3 days, had himself there, and then really shit the bed, for lack of a better way to put it, on Sunday. And then, rested last week. I think it's a good thing for him and his mind to come back clear. He's a ball striker. I talked about those kind of guys before. He's 3rd on tour in shots gained in his approach, 8th on tee to green, and 20th in shots gained total. So he's a guy that is striking the ball well. His number one weakness, like Matsuyama, like a lot of guys that I like this week, I don't know if this is a good sign or not, is putting. He's 171st on tour. So I don't know. He's hitting the ball well, but the putting is probably what's hurting him on Sunday, because that's when you need to make a putt on Sunday, the pressure's on you, and that's probably when your hands are shaking, you're a little nervous, and you can't quite convert. So
he might be a top 5 guy for me this week, Morikawa.
Yeah, I
instead
like
of a winner.
I finished probably not a win, but a high finish.
Somewhere in that top 5, top 10 range, I think.
Is that where we put Schauffele as well? Because he's it didn't get as much attention, but you can also argue that he also blew the first tournament back.
Definitely. Terrible 18th hole. Terrible 72nd hole.
Yeah, he didn't play well the next week, though he made the cut. He played pretty well the week after that, and then took last week off. This might be a week where he gets it together and threatens to win.
I like the question in the chat here. Richard Casey got Cameron Champ 80-1. I like Champ a lot this week. I'm seeing a ton of value. Back-to-back top 15 finishes. Great off the tee. Struggles it in other areas, but maybe not. Doesn't need to be as polished in those areas this week. Shorter rough, slower greens this week. Missed the cut at Memorial last year. That's the one concern. But you're getting 80-1 on a guy. What's the guy's thoughts on Cameron Champ? And anybody?
Love Cameron Champ. Fun fact, I was at the U.S. Open, and we were following him because we had a bet against him. And these 3 really nice young ladies were following him, and it turned out it was his mom and his sister and his girlfriend.
Not who you
and
thought.
We walked,
all right, there you go.
We walked with. They were so sweet and so nice, and we walked with him for 3 holes as he was banging his drives off of trees and stuff. And so we're like, oh, that's too bad. And we're like, yeah, all right, good. No, his game looks great. I've followed the guy a lot. I loved him coming out of college. I've always said he can hit the ball a mile. He just has no idea where it's going to land. But since the break, I don't know. I haven't read anything about him working hard during the break, but it sure looks like it. A couple of really solid finishes. He's long priced, as they mentioned. I think there's a lot of value in maybe an outright or even a top 20. And definitely in head-to-heads. He's been pretty impressive. Has been a pleasant surprise since the break.
Good stuff.
Well, if you want to go the other extreme, guy who doesn't hit it as far, but he's won a few times on tour. He loves this layout. He's off a second-place finish. How about Kevin Streelman?
Yeah,
I mean, if you're looking for a bomber, I mean, he's out there at some pretty long odds, and you can get 60-70-1 in that range on Streelman. Might be worth a flyer. I think he's got a chance to contend, given his history on this course, which is really good the last 4 or 5 years.
Those are guys, and I feel like, and I'm curious, Nick, I want to get your thoughts on Sturman, but I feel like the dichotomy between a first-round leader bet and a win bet is, I feel like that is where, and I know sometimes you have to split it because it's a tie, but I do feel like with guys like that, if you get a better price on a first-round leader bet, I'll see what Streelman is right now. But is that another way to kind of play some of these long shots, Nick?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Streelman's a guy.
I'm seeing for first-round leader. For
yeah, he's a good play this week. And yes, to answer your question, because you get guys that are comfortable on certain courses. Yeah. They come out confident. They show up on the leaderboard. I mean, listen, how many times at the end of Thursday do you look at the leaderboard and go, oh, I haven't heard of his name in a while. I haven't seen that.
And they're nowhere to be found by Saturday.
And then come Sunday, exactly. So
it's that Harold Varner principle.
Yeah. And that's another name this week. That's another name this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no chance I'd play Varner to win the tournament.
First-round leader, absolutely.
But first round at a price, he usually comes out firing.
He's 80-1 right now. I'm seeing first-round leader. I mean, why is that not worth $10 of your money? To win 800 on a chance he shoots. I mean, it's to me that is certainly ways to play it. A couple more long shots that I saw were a little bit intriguing. And I guess he's really not a long shot, but what are your thoughts on Mark Leishman this week? I think he's more of a middle of the pack kind of value guy, but he really does love this course. A guy not very accurate off the tee, but again, loves playing this course, and I think the number's kind of where you would expect a guy with his volatility, about 40, 50 to 1, somewhere in that range. Any thoughts on Leishman?
Just wish he was in a little better form. He's played 2 tournaments, missed a cut in the first one, took a week off, comes back, gets a 58th, which but he does play. I mean, he's got a real big history on this course. Looking at what is it? 9 years. The worst he's done is he had a 62nd.
Yeah.
But he's also had some top 10s in there. So this could be a course that it is a course that he likes, and maybe this is where he bounces back. He did take last week off, so he should be fresh.
Yeah, he's had a very interesting restart, guys. And any final thoughts on Leishman? I think I might put him on my card this week, but not to win. I think maybe I'll sprinkle on to win, but I definitely going to have him in the top 20, I think.
I call him Passenger 57. I swear every time I look at my app on the phone, he's in 57th place. We call him Mark Leishman Passenger 57.
Oh, my goodness.
My thoughts.
Unbelievable. It's funny because there are, you get guys like this that are horses, for these particular courses, and they just, it's hard to leave them off of your card knowing how much they love this course. But that's certainly one to debate, I guess.
And that's where and another guy I think he would be a first round look would be Grillo.
I have him on my list too.
He likes the course. Yeah. He's usually pretty good early in tournaments. So you don't want him on Sunday particularly. He's off 2 decent finishes, not great, but he made the cut in the last 2 events, and so his form is not terrible. And he again has had success on this course. He was I think what did he get, a 9th last year on this course?
Yeah. Scotty Scheffler's another guy that kind of was a little further down on the board that kind of stuck out to me. He's had some very volatile results where a first-round leader bet would be warranted, but not a win bet outright.
Yeah, but he got a lot of hype.
It's true.
On the restart, and he's been awful the last 2 weeks. He missed the cut both times, and he has no experience in this course. That's the kind of guy. I mean, if he plays well, he plays well, but he's a throwaway for me. I didn't even consider him.
Dave, I know on a guy big on your list this week too. He's been very consistent.
Yeah, I mean he's a solid player, and he loves this layout. 17, 2, 25, and 11. Didn't play last week. Has had 2 reasonable performances in the 3 events he played and 1 missed cut. I just think he's a guy who's better than his odds. I mean, Circa has him at 82 to 1.
Yeah.
I think the lowest I've seen on him is 60 to 1. I think he's cheaper. He should be cheaper than that. I think he's more in the 40 to 1 range on this course. So if you want to call it a value stab and a long shot, I think you would qualify as far as that goes.
Fair. Nick, anything down lower odds board that catch your eye there? We're going a few of these guys, but I feel like there's a million different ways to play it in the bomber category.
Yeah. The one guy that I think we talked about a lot this restart is Domestically. 100 to 1 is where I got him to win, and plus 400 for a top 20. Just seems like crazy value for a guy that had a chance to win already. This restart has made the cut in all 3 events and has been playing really well. He took last week off. He's rested. His numbers are good. I don't know. Am I missing something on why he dropped so far? He was way higher odds in those first couple events, so I'm not sure why he's dropped to where he's dropped. Maybe because he took a week off, people forgot his name. But
I see 80-1 first round leader. I really like. That's a big number.
Yeah, so that's a play for me. He's the other way to play some of these guys we haven't really talked about much is make miss cuts.
Yeah.
And some of the high price guys you can't really play it on. You're laying 300-400, but Dominic at 101, he's minus 160, and I don't like to necessarily lay that high, but that's not a bad price just to make the cut. Anything under 200 there is where I won't look past, but I think he's a decent play this week. I think plus 400 top 20 is a steal, to be honest.
We haven't mentioned this guy, and he's really playing well right now, and he actually has played well in this course. Ryan Armour. I mean, the guy's hitting every fairway, and he's a back-to-back top 10s. Was very solid in this event this past weekend, and he's got 2 top 25s the last 2 years at Muirfield. I mean, do I think he's going to win? No, but if you're looking at that 100-1 neighborhood for a stab, you could do a lot worse.
I agree. Also, I think his round leader bet, 90-1 first round leader. I think that is definitely worth a stab. I saw a couple of other names on this list that intrigued me. Nick, you had Kuchar on this list. Any interest in Kuchar, guys? I mean, I know he's always kind of the old reliable.
I don't have any interest in him. I just don't like his form. Maybe he comes roaring back. Obviously, he's won here in the past. He's had some close calls, but he's just not playing well. He missed the cut with a horrible 18th hole in the first event back, made the cut, but was never really in it the second week and didn't play the last 2 weeks. He's one of those guys who he's still going to be a threat, but I think his days of seriously contending on a weekly basis are nearing an end. As he gets older, it's an aging process thing. It's kind of like Phil.
I was going to ask if you compare it to
not
Mickelson.
That level yet, but Phil Mickelson, I don't think Phil will ever win another PGA event. He's 50. He's going to have a lot of tournaments where he's still in contention, but he's not. To me, he's not going to be a 4-round guy anymore. He might be the best 50+ we've ever seen, but I don't. If you gave me a prop as to whether he wins another PGA event, I'd take a chance if the odds were right on him not doing so. Of course, it may not be tying up my money for longer than I'm going to be alive.
He might be playing into his 60s. He's going to get his Social Security money when he's still going to be on tour. Andy, what's your take on Mickelson and I guess Kuchar as well, as we kind of cap these aging veterans on tour?
I hope Phil never leaves. I don't want a world in which I can't watch Phil Mickelson play golf.
Fair.
Yeah. Most of the time on Thursday and Fridays now in his career. But no, he's so up and down, but he's so fun. I would say the most we're going to get out of Phil is just a couple of laughs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have
or
money
the match.
tied up in.
We'll see some interesting exhibitions, I'm sure.
Yes.
I think you'll get still plenty of teases out of Phil.
Yeah.
Well, he's looking like he might be there. But it just gets so tough to walk 4 rounds when you're older, and let's face it, he's facing some young
you're going
lions
up against guys that are bombing it 50 yards further than you off the tee and are sprinting to the ball, and you're huffing after your 280-yard drive. So I agree. I think Phil, and I hate to say it, but I think we're maybe a couple years away from talking Tiger in that way. Not yet. I think he's still got a few more tricks left up his sleeve, but
so do I.
But Tiger, I think within the next
he owns
3
a
to
green
4
jacket
years.
right now. Remember?
Yeah, no, he's still pretty good, but I don't think we're there yet with Tiger. But it is interesting, kind of that scale when I'm curious at what point will we start putting Tiger into that discussion? Because obviously Father Time's undefeated. It's going to get there eventually. It's just a matter of when. Nick, I got to ask you about this guy because you had him on in your list here, and he's probably one of the biggest odds I've seen you put in there is Andrew Putnam at 400-1. That is a juicy nugget, my friend.
Listen, there's no. If you look at the restart, go to Andy's analysis of playing 2 different seasons. There is no reason to bet this guy based on the restart. But
I would agree with that.
Andy's joking over there. We got to get him Heimlich. Andy, stay with us, brother.
I'm just laughing at Nick betting on guys who can't putt.
Andrew Putnam's best finish since the break is the week he didn't play.
Hey, I was reading the notes. Nick, he said, I mean, listen, I at 400 to 1, I mean, $1, it's worth the fun, I guess, just to joke about it afterwards. But please defend yourself, sir.
I looked at it like this. He has no reason to bet him this week, right, because of what he's been doing. But if you go back to before the pause, he had 7 straight cuts and 4 top 20 finishes, which is pretty solid for a guy you don't really hear his name. I was betting him each week and doing pretty well with him, and then the pause happened. He has struggled to come back, and people forget about him. He was under 100 to 1 each week while that was going on. So just from a value standpoint, I think he's worth a look. He's 12 to 1 for just a top 20. And you can even get him at 335 for a top 40. Yeah. So he's a guy that's worth a little bit money. He's not going to win. Let's be honest. But to make the cut, finish top 30, top 40.
I'll throw out one more name that I saw over 100 to 1 that intrigued me was Lanto Griffin. He continues to play better week after week, but he's never played this course before. Any interest in my good friend Lanto this week, guys?
Price has got to be right. I looked at him a little bit, but I actually bet on it. He had a little bit of a hot streak. I believe
he looked good over the weekend. Again, his last 2 tournaments, T25,
he's
T25.
Like, isn't he like 9th in the standings?
Yeah, he's in good shape, and he's putting it really well. Top 40 in putting.
It's amazing.
I mean, he's got 150 to 1 is where I saw his odds today. I mean, throw $10 there.
I'll put it this way. I think he can beat out if in terms of value.
Yeah.
He's twice the price of Jason Day.
Great point. I was going to ask guys to fade. He's certainly on the list.
Well, I mean, Jason Day is just he's a cash cow right now going against him.
Yeah.
He is.
Well, he is. He just is. I mean, he's not what he was, and he's coming off 3 missed cuts out of 4 events since he returned. 46th in the one event he managed to play through the weekend. He missed the cut here last year. He just continues to trend downward.
11 starts at Muirfield, 1 top 25, 4 missed cuts. So that's pretty. I would say that's a pretty stark fade. Another guy I had on my fade list was Gary Woodland. He's been very balky since the restart, and he was pretty high up on the board. I feel like he might be a good guy to fade the matchups this week. What are your guys' thoughts on Woodland? We haven't talked about him yet.
I don't know. I kind of felt the opposite way. I didn't use him as one of my outrights this week, but his first tournament back was really strong. Then a little scuffle the second week, missed the cut, but he took last week off. And I do have a tendency to like guys. Sure. I like top 25 players off a missed cut, especially if they took a week off. Because he wasn't just sitting around, and I would expect him to play well, and he does have some reasonable success on this course.
He does. Actually, he's played in it. He hasn't missed a cut at this course since 2015. He had a 6th place finish in 2011. He's got a top 5 in 2016. A little struggle last year over the weekend, but still an interesting point there. I think I'm just going to leave him off my card this week. I think Dave convinced me just not to fade him.
Is the bounce guy Matthew Wolff?
I was going to say Justin Thomas would be my bounce guy, right? I mean, he's the default because of the missed cut 2 weeks ago.
I'm talking bounce the opposite way.
Bounce the opposite way. That's fair. Yes, 100%. Because you would think Wolff, the volatility with Wolff is you sell the peak, or you sell the peaks, you buy the valleys with a guy as volatile as him. But do you put him in the same category as Cameron Champ, who are these big bombers off the tee that have maybe struggled a little bit with their precision? And I would say you need a little more precision this week as a short rough.
Not as much, because to me, where I'm looking to play against the guy in a bounce situation is when they had a really good tournament and just missed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the 2 guys that stuck out for me as far as that goes this week would be Matthew Wolff and Adam Hadwin.
Yeah.
They both, Hadwin very quietly had a great
top 5. Yeah.
And this is not a course that he's had a lot of success on. And he's just not a guy who consistently, if he goes top 10 one week, he's probably not going top 10 the next week. So I think those are 2 guys you might look to fade in matchups.
That's a good point. Guys, any other fades this week? We talk about a lot of guys we like to bet on, but fades sometimes can be very, very profitable if you pick the right matchup.
Billy Horschel's a fade for me. He hasn't been good since the break, and I think you could get some good odds because he finished 9th here last year, but he missed the cut the 2 years before. He's normally really, really consistent, and just 2 missed cuts in a row is really out of character for him. So maybe there's something going on with a swing or an injury. I couldn't find anything on an injury. Maybe just a little bit of a slump, but that's a guy you might find some good odds just based on a ninth place finish here last year.
Nick, final thoughts on fades, my friend.
I want to throw this kind of general statement out there about bombers.
Okay.
I think what we're seeing right now, Bryson, right, 350-yard averages it's kind of going into if you don't hit the ball far enough, the days of you winning on tour are going to go away. I'm sorry, but hitting a wedge out of rough is a lot easier than hitting a 7-iron, 6-iron from the middle of the fairway. And if you don't have that kind of speed and length, you're going to start to struggle.
And the courses are starting to get designed. You know, you're starting to see the rough. I mean, I'm not starting to see, but to me, you're right. The spin rate out of the rough is so much harder to achieve. If you don't have a wedge out of the rough, forget it.
But the thing on DeChambeau, and this is what makes him scary. Now, I think you put him on winged foot, and I think he's going to have problems there. But on a lot of these courses, he's so long off the tee now. It
almost doesn't matter if he's inaccurate.
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean he hit
missed
a
the
terrible.
fairway. He was in like the other tee box in one of the courses.
Yeah, but he hit it so far. He'd actually hit it past.
Yeah, he was like hole high.
Yeah, he hit it past the area where he was.
Yeah.
If he hit 320, he'd have been in all kinds of trouble.
Such a great
for his next shot. He actually hit it so far that he cleared all the problems.
The courses are designed. If you miss shorter because the ball slices out. And you're right. If you overshoot, if you're so long, it's a very interesting point. Where it almost makes it to where driving accuracy is a metric maybe we don't look as much at these lower. Maybe not. Maybe not winged foot. You know, to Dave's point, or some of these master. You know, Augusta. But you know, these types of tournaments, we driving accuracy. Forget it. Who cares?
I have the under 2024 for Bryson tearing his back in half trying to drive a par 5. Like, it's fun. It's entertaining. There's no way this is sustainable. Yeah. It's just not. And what dietitian is okay with this diet that he's on?
It's insane.
It's crazy.
I'll tie the bow on Bryson with this. We talked about this, Andy, before we came on, but his little spat on Saturday with the cameraman.
He was just wrong.
I know. Like, you know, I think it came off as very, very, you know, shallow on his part. Like, do you really expect the camera to not follow you while you're on the course?
Well, okay. This is a problem that actually is not it's not restricted to DeChambeau. For some reason, it might tie in with politics actually. But for some reason, a lot of the athletes today feel like the media is supposed to be promoting them. They do. They literally feel that way. And if the media is not promoting them, then it's like they're in their face.
I think my favorite part about that was he said that he was mad at the cameraman because it might hurt his brand. And it was like,
you're hurting your own brand.
No, that is his brand. Him hacking the bunker and then mad at the cameraman is right on point for your brand, right?
When he
everything I love
Tiger
about him. It's so great.
That's what pushed me over the edge, Nick, because Tiger has been playing with a camera in his face since he was literally like 5 years old. Like,
and he
cannot compare that situation at all.
And he doesn't care about
it. No, exactly. I think he welcomes it.
He doesn't care. By the way, DeChambeau, the guy it's just I lost my train of thought for a second. I just got it back. I saw some comments on Twitter and Facebook. It's like, oh, he must be on steroids. No, I mean, that's not a steroid body. He's kind of fat.
That's a bacon and protein shake body.
He looks like me after about 4 months of quarantine. Oh wait, that's right. Now, all right, I want to go around the room and get everyone's thoughts for the week. Final thoughts, packages, picks, the whole 9 yards. Promote it. Nick, I'll start with you. What do you have brewing there in the lab for this weekend?
Right now, I have a 5% play up for a top 20 finish this week that I really love, plus money. Really good value in my opinion. I'll have my head-to-head matchups out by the end of tonight. So right now, you get the 5%.
Andy?
I have 4 head-to-heads. They are already up, locked and loaded. I jump on them now so you get the best number. We always see these numbers move on Wednesday, so get in there. And then I have a prop top 20. I get a sneaking feeling that we're all going to be on the exact same top 20 prop this week. But no, 5 plays, 4 head-to-heads, and 1 prop. They're up now. And then tomorrow will be our NASCAR show, and I will have NASCAR plays up as well.
Dave, KBO, and golf. I know everything's been cruising right along out there in Vegas.
Yeah, actually, I'm the $2 Tuesday guy with a KBO selection at wagertalk.com. I have 4 outrights up in golf, and I'm only posting outrights. I'm not going to post matchups or top 20s or anything like that because obviously I like the 4 guys that I used as the outrights. So feel free to use them in matchups or top 20s. Yeah. You just don't. There's no need to put those up as actual selections and charge more money for them. So right now, a 4-pack of guys for this weekend. Hopefully one of them gets there.
Always looking out for your clients, Dave Cokin. That's why you're the best in the business, sir. I also have a top 20. I've hit 4 straight 5-percenters. I've got another 5-percenter. It's a top 20. It's plus money. It kind of plus money. I would say it's right on the vicinity of plus money. And I'm very excited about that this week. I'll probably have some matchup bets also up tonight as we get closer to the Workday Charity Open. But for now, that is tea time from Vegas. I thank you for tuning in here on Wager Talk TV. My panel, Dave Cokin, Nick Borrman, Andy Lang. Experts, as always, good stuff. For myself, Jared Smith, we will see you all next week. I think KIV will be back, a little bit more eye candy here in the host chair. But for now, you're stuck with me. But until then, thanks for tuning in.
See you guys.